Before I start the demonstration, I want to give you a better understanding of how the strap is actually held on to the case. The leather straps are held on by what's called a spring bar. As you can see here, I have a 20mm spring bar. The ends are spring loaded, so as I squeeze it, the ends compress. You'll notice that there's a small shoulder right here on the end. There are holes drilled into the case where the most narrow tip sits in. The goal in swapping out a strap with a spring bar tool is to hug the shoulder and compress the spring like that. Again, this is how it looks when the spring bar is inside the leather strap. In order to adjust the spring bar with a spring bar tool, we're going to get the spring bar down along the leather, up against the case, until it meets resistance, which means that the forked end is hugging the shoulder of that spring bar. I will rotate my wrist to compress the spring, and using my other hand, rotate the strap out of the case. With a little bit of practice, a little bit of focus, it's quite simple. Again, please be careful with a sharp spring bar tool up against the leather and the metal casing. I don't want you to damage the leather or scratch the metal. I bring the spring bar down until it meets resistance, which means I'm hugging the spring bar. I rotate my wrist, and usually you can hear a little pop. And while I'm holding that compressed spring in, I rotate, and you can see the separation of the strap in the case. Now that one strap is off, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing to the other side. Again, be careful of your hands, be careful of the leather, and be careful of the case. It can be difficult to squeeze the spring bar tool between the leather and the case when the strap is straight out to the side. I find it a little bit easier to raise it up a bit so I can see the sidewall of the leather, giving me an access point. I push down, pull out, there we go. Now that we have taken the leather straps off of our watch, we will remove the spring bars from the leather strap and be careful not to lose them. Before putting on our NATO strap, there are a couple things we need to go over. With a new strap, it's going to be quite tight as the tolerances are very, very small, getting the spring bar in to the well here. I designed it that way so that the case itself does not slide on the NATO strap as you're wearing it on your wrist. I found putting on the NATO strap for the first time easiest by following these following steps. Look at the side of your NATO strap. You'll notice that there are keepers here and the free one here. Find the midpoint, and that's where I will lay the strap. You're going to lay the long end with the tail up against the case with your free-floating end away from the case. Again, positioning this about halfway between the two keepers, that's where I will start. I'll fold this one back. I will lay one end into the well, and I'll note that fold of the rib on the stitching. I go ahead and fold that point over once, give it a good crease, and this just helps with putting in the spring bar. You may notice that it's a lot easier to fit the strap into that well. Grab your spring bar, put it in one hole on one side, and then typically with your finger you can compress it and push it in to the other side. You can use your spring bar tool to make sure that it's seated properly in each hole. as you can see here, the spring bar is in the hole on one side as well as the other. One thing I like to do to ensure this is by taking the forked end of the spring bar tool over the shoulder, I push the spring bar into the case on both ends. That just ensures that the spring has pushed the bars all the way out and into the holes. The other thing I like to make sure, especially because these tolerances are so tight, is that the spring bar sits along one single rib of the stitching. As you can see here, you'll notice that there's one rib above and another below. The final step is to make sure that it's nice and tight and secure. To do this, I like to use the tug test. Give a good pull on both ends in different directions and really make sure that it's snug. You can see it's not going anywhere and that spring bar has not budged. That's nice and secure. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. Repeating this on the other side is quite simple. I make sure that the strap is nice and tight up against the back of the case and figure out exactly where that spring bar is going to sit on the other side. Just like before, I'm going to fold the strap over, giving it a good crease in that one spot. And this just helps with the spring bar seating easier. We'll grab our spring bar. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the hole closest to me. You can use your finger or the spring bar tool. I'm going to hug the shoulders, compress the spring, and then force it around the case into the hole. It's not quite in yet, so I'm manipulating the pin until it's in the hole. I push the shoulders on both sides all the way out to make sure it's in. Make sure the ribs are nice and straight. And there we go. One final tug test, giving a good pull, both sides. That's not going anywhere. The final step for these NATO straps is to feed the tail through the hole and pull it straight. There you go. We now have the Patriot back on the NATO. I love NATO straps for a couple reasons. One, they usually have a lot of color and they're super comfortable. They make the watches look really good. And best of all, if one of these spring bars were to fail, meaning they pop out of the case, your watch is not going to fall off your wrist. As you can see, if the strap's closed and on your wrist, if one of those spring bars comes off, it's not falling off your wrist. Pretty cool. In this portion of the video, we're going to swap from a NATO strap back to our leather strap. The first thing you have to do is unthread the back end of the NATO strap. This is quite simple since the spring bars are quite exposed. Using the forked end of our spring bar tool, we will hug the shoulders of the spring bar, compress the spring, and rotate it out. Be careful that the spring bar doesn't go flying across the room. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I know it's difficult to see here. And there you have it. The NATO strap is off, and we can put on our leather strap. In order to put our leather strap back on our case, these are the following pieces you need. The leather strap itself, possibly a spring bar tool, the spring bars themselves, as well as the watch. First things first, let's go ahead and take each spring bar and feed it through the leather strap until it's centered. We're going to start with the buckle side on the strap and put that at 12 o'clock. I'll flip the case over. This is 12 o'clock. I'll flip the strap over. I take the tip of the spring bar closest to myself, feed it into the hole in the case, and using the forked end of the spring bar, I'm going to compress the spring and force it around the case. Now, since I don't really know where the hole is, I'm going to gently manipulate the tip. You can see the tip of the spring bar there. I'm going to push it down, and I just felt it click. The best test is to give it the tug test. I'm going to pull in a couple different directions, and this is not going anywhere. For the most part, if that spring bar was not in the hole, the strap would pull right out. Now that we've done that to the one side, we're going to do the same steps on the other. We'll flip it over. Make sure to flip the strap over. We're going to feed the spring bar into the hole closest to myself. I hold it in place with my other hand. Using the forked end of the spring bar tool, we compress the spring, and then I do some gentle manipulation of the strap until it finds the hole. I just felt it pop. I'm going to give it a tug test. And there you go. It's rock solid and not going anywhere. Now we're back on our leather strap, and I can go about my day. Swapping your strap should not be intimidating. It can be a little tricky at times, but with a little bit of focus, it is absolutely doable at home. That is why I included the spring bar tool and an extra strap in the watch box. I like to dress my watches up and dress them down, depending on what I'm doing that day. If I'm going to work out or jump in the pool with my kids, it goes on the NATO without a doubt. If I'm going to dress it up, it goes on leather, but at the same time, the leather looks great in a pair of blue jeans and a t-shirt. No matter what you're doing, there are options available, and they all come in the kit. I really hope this strap changing tutorial video was helpful. If you're still stuck or have further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask me. I'm happy to help in any way possible. I hope everybody is enjoying rocking the attitude on their wrist. I look forward to seeing pictures and hearing everybody's remarks.